एक शाख पर दोनों बैठे, एक गुरु एक चेला, गुरु की करनी गुरु भरेगा और क्या चेले की भरेगा चेला, और उड़ेगा हंस अकेला. So let us understand what does it mean. There are not one but three realities. Okay, not one but three realities. At one level of reality, there is only Shiva or Shiva Shakti, what we can say. Okay, only Shiva shines, correct, in its own glory. This level is known as Paramarthik level. Okay, Paramarthik level. That's the ultimate meaning of everything. There are no two. There is only one. Okay, this is one. And then there is another reality which is known as our transactional reality in which we are living. This transactional reality in which we operate through our bodies, in which we see this world quite real, in which we do our karma, in which we do our planning, right? In which we do our punya and papa, correct? And in the same transactional reality, we also make effort for liberation. Okay. See, the possibility of liberation is here in transactional reality. And once that becomes your tendency, then it becomes a remote possibility that sometimes you may continue the same work in Pratibhasik also, which is the in-between reality. Pratibhasik, only of impressions. So there are three levels of reality. One, which we talk of Paramarthik, the ultimate reality. Then the one which you experience in the living, waking world, which is relative or transactional reality, which is okay. And then there is in between. There is in between the reality of just mental impressions, right? That's known as Pratibhasik. That means the one which appears to be. Appears, right? This one you feel it is real, right? And the last one you don't know, correct? Now all the karma, all the action is accumulated by the ego when it is operating in the realm of, or in that reality which is known as transactional reality, right? The current reality. So the karma is accumulated here, okay? And karma has to be paid off here, okay? Karma will have to be paid off here. And some of it in its impressions can go to Pratibhasik and can be paid off there also. For example, you may do a karma which is, and see, at the end there is no reality, so there is no karma. And then there is no virtue, there is no goodness, there is no merit, there is no sin. That's the ultimate, right? But in transactional reality, whatever you, with your sense of doing, owning an action, desiring something, right, which is also a projection, though it is a projection. Individuality is a projection. It's ignorance. But this ignorance is so real, is it not? And whatever karma we are doing, we are going to be paid off here. Okay, now, so when Guru comes in this reality, when you're experiencing Guru in this reality, and you are experiencing yourself as a reality, of course here they are two. In this transactional reality, there are two. There's no one, right? So what does it mean? Guru comes with his own baggage, and they are sitting on the same branch. The same branch means the same branch of transactional reality, right? In the same branch when they sit, then what happens? It is not the first time Guru is taking birth. Okay. As an individual, when someone appears here, even when God appears here, he has to fulfill the obligations of this reality. He'll have to pay the killing of Bali in Dwapar, Treta, some desires which were projected towards him, and probably he cognized that. You see, and probably even in that form, when he was playing human, he was operating through this transactional reality. So all the maidens, all the girls who were watching Rama going for that marriage with Sita, so they became envious. They became envious and they became desirous of Rama. That Rama should be our husband, is it not? The most eligible bachelor probably in the whole cosmos. So they desired it, and Rama somewhere acknowledges. So what happens? He has to come back and pay in the Krishna avatar. Okay. So this reality here, you come to only pay back or settle the scores. This is this reality, right? When you operate here, you are already here with some baggage, and in this sense, it is said that Guru ki karni Guru bharega or Chele ki bharega chela, whatever. That means the deeds of Guru will be paid off by Guru himself, and the deeds of disciple will be paid off by disciple. Now, this is a message for both of you, means the Guru and disciple. One is that the disciple should not burden Guru with the onus of changing the transactional reality for him. Okay. The transactional reality you inherit by virtue of your karma. Okay. And secondly, if Guru suffers certain things, then you should not become wary of your faith. That how can a Guru suffer? How can a Guru become ill? How can a Guru commit a crime or maybe an omission or mistake? This is what is being said here. But when you move beyond this, that means when you become Hansa. Hansa means the one who is able to, Hansa is only the way to say that someone who becomes so much knowledgeable that he is able to differentiate between the unreal and real, right? So one who sees that, then there are no two. Then there is no Guru, no Shishya. Then that is the declaration of Shankaracharya at that moment. Na Guru hum na Shishya. Okay, but below that, if you come at the transactional level reality, So Shankaracharya suffers from fissures, okay, in this body. Now when you say, how come Shankaracharya, the God incarnate, how can he suffer like that? Correct? So this branch of this reality, there are three branches as I said, and in this branch, and in the next one also, see, when you go to heaven or hell, this is not reality which is ultimate. This is pratibhasik reality. Okay. There also you suffer, you enjoy, right? But mostly in pratibhasik reality, unless until there is a strong momentum generated in the transactional reality, those actions don't continue. For example, if you have started a business, day and night you are thinking about it, then probably you will be counting notes or creating products in your dream, which is pratibhasik. Otherwise not. So intense you are in your transactional reality, then your bhajan, your kirtan, your naam, your japa, your sadhana can also continue in the pratibhasik. Understand? Otherwise it is not possible. So there is a possibility, as I said, there is a possibility that pratibhasik may become a ground for your sadhana also. However, roughly speaking, it is not so. Generally speaking, it is not so. And therefore, it is said that ki guru ki karni, guru bharega, or chele ki bharega chela. The disciple will have to own his own karma, and the guru will be owning his own karma. Understand? Nothing more than that. Hans udega akela, always Hansa. When you realize Hansa state, it seems there is no other than you, no one other than you. So there, you in that domain, in that paramarthic reality or that ultimate reality, you are one, and there is only one. Got it? Hey Satguru. Now Dharamdas says, Hey Satguru, binavon kar jori, ek sanshaya metahu prabhu mori, जाके चित अनुराग समाना, ताको कहो कवन सही दाना, अनुरागी कैसे लखी परई, बिनु अनुराग जीव नहीं तरई. This is the question. So he is saying that, O Satguru, with folded hands, I request, and this is my only request, as of now, one by one. Okay. Ik sanshaya metahu prabhu. Now, this is so very important. This attitude is so very important. He is calling the Guru Prabhu. Okay. Prabhu means he is actually referring to Guru as God. This attitude. So with this attitude, when a disciple is approaching, and he also has some prerequisites, some understanding. This questioning also shows it. He is asking, though he is having doubt. Because at the end, he shows his knowledge. He says, Jake chit anurag samana, tako kaho kavan sahidana, anuragi kaise lakhi parai. Till now he is asking questions. Jake chit anurag samana, tako kaho kavan sahidana. This is one question. He says, how that person looks or how that person behaves, what are the qualities, what are the properties, how can you recognize such a person? The one who has this oceanic love in his heart, love for the God, love for the truth, love for the self, not for the world, probably. Because Next one say Anuragi kaise lakhi pari. How does he look? You know, how does he look? Can you see him and just recognize? This is the basic question people ask, right? You also want to see a guru in a certain form, right? Because you have an image in your mind that the guru should be in such and such way. The guru should wear such and such color of clothes. Guru should have this kind of personality. Guru should not be crippled. Guru should not be deaf and dumb. Guru should not come from a very low family. Guru should have a very clean character. Guru should have lived a very responsible life. All that. Guru should have a clean past. Guru should have a clean future. All that, whatever you think, is your projection, right? Is it not? But here, he is saying, Anuragi kaise lakhi parai, although it is the same attitude which looks for certain attributes of looks, etc. in the Guru, the same person can ask. Who else will ask? How does this Anuragi look? If this is the way, this is the attitude, then only you will ask, right? How do I recognize him? And by recognizing means what? How do I see? How does he look? So the same attitude, the question is also indicative of that attitude. Because even Arjuna asks when Krishna says that in Gita about Jnani, he asks, how does he walk? How does he talk? What does he do? Is it a vegetarian? Is it a brahmachari? Does he have an ascetic life? Is he a grihastha? Does he have 10 wives? Is he as a renunciate? Is he having a mutt? All that. This is not. This is what Krishna is being asked by Arjuna. So this is the attitude generally, and Dharam Das is no different. Though he is little bit qualified because he has this conviction, Binu Anurag Jeev Nahi Tare. This much he has become sure. He is not sure how does he look, how do I recognize such a person, but he is very sure because in front of his own Guru, whom he calling Prabhu, he is declaring, or probably he is also telling that I know that Binu Anurag Jeev Nahi Tare, the one who does not have oceanic love in his heart will not be able to go beyond this Kala or Bhavasagar. Right? Let's go to what Kabir says. Kabir also starts, and these words are very precious, beautiful, because he is saying, Dharam Das Parakhahu Chitalai. Parakhahu Chitalai. He is not saying Sunahu, because Parakhahu means test. Sunahu means just listen. What he is saying? Parakhahu, whatever I am telling, now just keep testing it inside. I am giving you certain things which you need to test. If the testing can go on, even later, in the later periods also. But what he is asking, test. Because in the beginning itself it was said, Koi booji hai jan jauhari jo sabd ko parak kare. In the beginning itself it was said that you have to test the words of masters. You have to take the word or shabad or the mantra or the method or the process from the teacher and you'll have to test it. Right? So Kabir also says, Dharam Das Parkhahu Chit Lai Anuragi Lachan Sukhdai. Right? Parkhahu Chit Lai Anuragi Lachan Sukhdai. What he is actually saying that Anuragi means the one who is having this kind of heart, immensely pure, innocent, full of faith and complete trust, and has this quest to find himself, such a person's whatever virtues or whatever qualities I'm going to tell, when you will test, it will be Sukhdai. You will find it to be very, very comforting. You'll find it to be very, very, it will give you happiness to look at it when you will test. Because, you see, it's not that when we look at good things, it's only for the sake of goodness we feel good. Somebody else, it is not goodness for us, but even then when you look at something very good, you have this kind of feeling of joy. Suppose you go to Himalayas. Do you own Himalayas? But when you look at Himalayas, you feel happiness. Then somebody comes next to you. Why are you happy? Is it yours? You see, because so far in your life, you have mostly been happy about when you enjoyed, you looked at, for the things you possess. You look at your starry night, you look at a lake, you look, see, if you are so rich that you can own a lake, good, but you do not own Himalayas at least. Right? So you don't own the starry sky. You don't own the sunrise. You don't own the full moon, but still you feel good. So what he is saying, that when you will test these qualities of a person who is anuragi or the real lover at heart, you will feel very happy. You will feel joyous. Right? There are people who, if you're in their company, you just simply don't feel comfortable, right or not? And there are people, they're not connected with you, you don't know them, or you're meeting them for the first time. I'm not saying all sadhus, I'm not saying all sannyasis, because if you're too much obsessed with looks, you will not feel that. But maybe a simple, ordinary looking person, a common businessman, maybe an ordinary householder, maybe even a meat seller for that matter, be a really nice and very soothing personality for you. Maybe. Right? It happens. Have you felt it? This means what? That when you are in the company of anuragi, that means the real one who has love in his heart, you feel good. Simply you feel good. Only you need to test. Test means you should have a little bit of sensitivity to see beyond the looks, probably he is saying. Now he is describing what does he mean. What are the qualities? जैसे मृगा नाद सुनि धावै मगन होय व्याधा ढिग आवे चित कहूँ संक न आवे ताही देत शीस सो नाही डराही. This is saying, it is believed, I don't know, I have never tested, and I really don't know, but it is told in scriptures that the deers are very fond of music. If you are playing music, if you are playing some great music, the deers will come running towards you. It is said. Maybe it is true or maybe it is not, but it must have been true, because if we look at Krishna, then he says when Krishna used to play flute, all the most of the wild animals will surround him and they will forget their enmity, the natural enmity. And whenever you would have seen Radha Krishna, you would have seen two creatures. One is definitely two creatures. One is Mayura, the peacock, and the second is the Hiran, the deer. You may have seen. This is generally visualized by most of the artists. So deer, why deer? Because deer is fond of music. So when music is played, when the flute is played, when there is nice melody in his ears, he just runs towards it. forgetting everything, right? And he does not care. Chitkahu sankana avatai, that he never doubts. He never doubts that this person who is playing the flute will hunt me down, will cut my this head away. So det cease so nahi darahe. Even he is ready to offer his head, it is said. And he does not fear. This is one lakshan. This is one property. One more line he is saying. Suni suni naad sis tinh dinha aise aiso anuragi ko cheenha. Now this has a deep meaning. But superficially you can say a person who is so fond of the good words, the words loaded with wisdom, or the vibes which he receives from the hearts of pure souls, purified, noble people. They may not be noble as per your definitions, but they are noble, right? Noble at heart. They may be doing anything in their life. They may be doing probably the most cruelest thing in their lives, but they are very, very pure at heart. And when a person who feels so much attracted, goes to them, sits with them, without doubting that they can deceive them. Such people can even, exploit them. But he is not deterred. He is ready to take chance. He is ready to give his head. But he cannot leave this opportunity to be in the company of melody. The melody which arises from the pure heart. Understand? This is the property. This is the quality Kabir says. Now Kabir is speaking. I am not telling you this. At least listen to Kabir seriously. Kabir says a person who wants to progress, is that kind of person who is always in the search of that melody, right? Ready to risk everything, ready to trust anybody. You promise me something, you can show me something, you can tell me my real truth, you can guide me to that. He is ready. He is ready to trust. He is ready to give his sarvasva. What to think of the property, etc., etc. Right? He is ready to give everything because he knows, probably in the deepest of his hearts, that it is of no value. Correct? This has to be clear, or else why you will be running after such a melody? Another way, why it is being said, let's say, why it has to begin with the melody only, because there are many other attributes, many other qualities Kabir is going to narrate. Many other qualities of Anuragi, the lover, will be narrated. But why he begins with this melody and deer example? You see, it's only because when you come in contact with such souls, when you are in search for the truth, I would say, your life, your inner world, I'm not saying outer world, your inner world is longing for the melody. It has to be organized. There should be no chaos. There should be a music playing inside. And for this music, this state of inner being, this state of antahkara, such a person is ready to sacrifice anything. Such is the longing for melody. Now look at your mind, look at your life, look at your inner dialogues which are going on. Right? This thing. Are you really giving value to the melody in life? Are you giving that kind of importance and priority that my inner environment becomes completely in tune with whatever life I have gotten? You see, life you have chosen, is it not? This life you have chosen. This life you have chosen consciously or unconsciously, right? Consciously or unconsciously. But this is your choice. You have the choice of your body. You have the choice of your family. You have the choice of your country. You have the choice of the attributes, the physicality of your being. Right? This you cannot change. Little bit here and there you can. In a time, Chinese were obsessed, and their parameter of beauty was that the girls to be called beautiful should have tiny feet. Okay. So what they used to do, metallic shoes they used to put in the feet of such children, little kids, so that their feet can't grow. Lot of pain they will suffer. Their life will become hell. They cannot walk, but their feet will remain small because they are obsessed with this kind of beauty. Right? So externally you may change a little bit here and there, but what is being referred to here is your inner melody. You can change a little bit. You can't change much. You can't change much in your body. Somehow, 1 out of 7 billion can become Michael Jackson, that he can go for a skin transplant. But even then, does his inner melody change by doing so? So therefore, he is saying that whatever life you have gotten, you have to accept. Once you accept this, then the melody can happen properly. I'm inferring. He is not saying so. I'm just inferring. Otherwise, what? You can just read it once and then you say, okay, ठीक है. Stated. Okay, Kabira says so, I understood. What more? Now next. But this itself is so much important, that you should go for melodious life, that is harmonious life. And what means harmonious life? Let everything be going haywire, nothing doing. But my inner environment should always play Rag Bairagi. Okay. Rag Bhim Tali. Rag Surma Bhopali, whatever. Okay. So it should continue.
Guruji, then we may not have experienced that anurag or the melody, but we have experienced the cacophony, the opposite of it, and we don't like it. So we are now searching for something which is opposite of the cacophony. We want that, but we have not experienced it. So if we would have experienced anurag, then we would have not been here.
You have anurag. Let me tell you, I will tell you, all your anurag is misplaced. That's it. You have anurag. You have lot of anurag for whatever you are doing right now. You have anurag for your business. You have anurag for the life you have chosen, the family people you have gathered around you. You have anurag for the body which you have gotten. You have anurag for everything else other than the real anurag, which is about knowing the self. Who am I? Why I have come here? What is the purpose? For that you don't have any anurag. So you can't say this is not anurag. You may say it is cacophony, but no, you enjoy it at least for some time. If you had not gotten iota of enjoyment in this world, would you have continued till so far? So far you would have continued. That means there are moments, and we should not deny that there are. But look at the fate of those moments. Look at the kind of sweat and blood they ask for. And then just measure their half-life, as it in case of radioactive element. How many nanoseconds half-life of a particular element? Your happiness has a very, very short half-life. The moment you get, it starts decaying. Although it never decays fully. You see, for example, and that's the reason you are attracted to it. When you had a very great moment in your life and you achieved it because of your anurag for that, you desired for it, not that it was gifted. Nothing was gifted. You made some or the other conscious choices for that. You made efforts for that. At least you became candidate for it. Okay, me too. At least this much, right? Then only it came to you. And once it comes, they will say, okay, the moment is gone, Acharya ji, I don't know, there is no happiness left. But there is an element of happiness which always stays with you. This half-life means what? This is the beautiful thing about this radioactivity, which you would think that a 1 kg of uranium will become zero in certain number of years, even if its half-life is 1 minute or even 1 second. The point is, it will never become zero, because half ka half, you keep continuing, it never becomes zero. It still remains. And that is what your memory is doing. It always stays in your memory. It may not be as intense as of that moment when you are actually enjoying your desires fulfilled. But as they pass, they become feeble and feeble and feeble. Then what do you want? The memory is there. You want the repetition of it. You want the same intensity of it. So that will not come. So what if you want to create another opportunity for it? So anurag is there, Pankajji. Let's not fool ourselves by saying that there is no anurag. Cacophony, there is no cacophony. It is music for you. Let's accept that.